ready to dive deep into spiritual and Kundalini awakenings.
Always ready for a good deep dive.
You've been exploring these concepts a lot lately, right?
Yeah, they're so fascinating, aren't they? There's so much to unpack.
Definitely. And I think Dr. Christina Lopes, who we're hearing from in this YouTube video, adds a really practical dimension to it.
Oh, yeah, she does.
Especially when he talks about awakenings as unlocking abilities you didn't even know you had.
Like a superpower waiting to be activated.
Pretty cool, huh?
It is.
So, to start, how does Dr. Lopes define spiritual awakening?
She keeps it pretty simple. Becoming aware of something deeper in life, you know?
Right.
That moment when you realize there's more to existence than what you see on the surface.
Oh, yeah. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
When I first started meditating, it was like someone flipped a switch and suddenly the world felt more vibrant, more alive.
It's amazing how these practices can do that.
It wasn't a dramatic overnight transformation, more like a gradual unfolding.
I think that's how it is for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. What about you? Any experiences that shifted your perspective like that?
Oh, definitely, yeah. For me, it was after a period of intense grief, actually.
Wow.
It forced me to confront some deep-seated beliefs about life and death, you know? And ultimately, that led me on a path of seeking deeper meaning.
Yeah, it seems like these awakenings often emerge from those pivotal moments, the kind that shake us out of our comfort zones and make us question everything.
They really do.
Which is exactly what happened to Dr. Lopes, too, right?
Right.
The end of her marriage was a major catalyst for her.
Yes, and it's interesting how she connects that personal upheaval to her work now, helping others navigate their own awakening experiences.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've touched on spiritual awakening, but let's venture into the more mysterious territory of Kundalini energy.
Okay.
I'll be honest, the whole coiled serpent at the base of the spine imagery always felt a bit esoteric to me.
I get that. It's definitely an ancient concept rooted in Eastern traditions.
It is.
But we can also understand it in a more contemporary way, like Dr. Lopes suggests.
I'll say.
Like untapped potential waiting to be activated.
Okay, yeah.
Like dormant software.
That's a good analogy, actually.
It is.
She compares Kundalini to exponential biotechnology, like the rapid evolution of computers from room-sized machines to the powerful devices we hold in our hands.
Right, exactly.
And that really clicked for me because it suggests that our inner potential can similarly leapfrog limitations we thought were fixed.
And evolve rapidly.
So how does this dormant software actually get activated? What does a Kundalini awakening feel like?
Well, Dr. Lopes describes it as a surge of energy rising up the spine through energy centers called chakras and out the crown of the head.
Wow.
It's like a powerful current electrifying your entire being.
Okay, that sounds intense.
It can be.
She even compares it to a small generator transforming into a nuclear power plant.
She does, doesn't she? Which is why people often describe these awakenings as feeling overwhelming.
Yeah, no wonder. So how can you tell if you're having a spiritual awakening, a Kundalini awakening, or maybe even both?
That's a great question.
It seems like there's some overlap.
There is, but also some key distinctions.
Okay, so what are the clues?
Well, one of the most notable differences is the intensity.
Yeah.
A Kundalini awakening tends to be much more sudden and intense, like a jolt to the system.
Like a lightning strike.
Yeah. Whereas a spiritual awakening unfolds more gradually over time.
Or like a sunrise, right? Beautiful, subtle shifts in light and color.
Exactly. And some people, even those seeking a gradual spiritual awakening, can be taken aback by the sudden intensity of Kundalini.
Oh, wow.
If it gets activated along the way.
So it's not always a predictable path.
Not always.
Duration is another difference, right?
Yes. A Kundalini awakening typically lasts for weeks or months, while a spiritual awakening can span years or even a lifetime. It's more of a subtle, ongoing process of growth and expansion.
And then there are the physical sensations.
Right. With Kundalini, people often experience intense physical sensations like heat, energy surges, and even involuntary movements called kriyas.
Kriyas?
Yeah, these spontaneous postures or gestures that can look a bit unusual.
Really?
But they're thought to be the body's way of processing and integrating the energy.
Wow, so it's not just an internal experience. It can manifest physically as well.
It can.
I imagine that could be pretty alarming if you didn't know what was happening.
It definitely can be. That's why understanding these distinctions is so important. It can help people feel less frightened and more empowered to navigate these experiences.
Totally. Okay, so we've got intensity, duration, and physical sensations. What about the emotional impact? How does that differ between the two awakenings?
Well, Dr. Lopes puts it quite vividly.
How so?
Saying a Kundalini awakening can feel like being hit by a truck, repeatedly.
Ouch, that doesn't sound pleasant.
Not exactly.
Is spiritual awakening more emotionally manageable?
Generally, yes. While it can certainly be challenging in its own way, it tends to be a gentler process.
So what happens if you experience both a spiritual and a Kundalini awakening?
That's when things can get really interesting.
I bet. What does Dr. Lopes say about that?
She emphasizes the importance of focusing on stabilizing the Kundalini energy first.
Why is that?
Well, she shared a story about a client who had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening while working on a construction site.
Oh, wow.
And he became so overwhelmed, he ended up crying uncontrollably and sleeping on the steps of a church.
Oh, my gosh.
It just highlights how disruptive and confusing these experiences can be without the right guidance.
Definitely.
So it's like putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others on a plane.
Right. You need to take care of your own energetic well-being first.
Exactly. So let's talk about how to do that. How can people actually navigate this powerful Kundalini surge?
Yeah, that's what I'm really curious about. Dr. Lopes offers some practical tips, right?
She does.
And what's great is that they can apply to both Kundalini and spiritual awakenings.
Yes.
Let's break those down because I think they could be incredibly helpful for anyone listening who is going through this or maybe even just curious about what to expect.
That's good.
What's the first piece of advice?
One of the most important things Dr. Lopes emphasizes is surrendering, not resisting the energy.
Okay, I've heard that before, but it's easier said than done, right?
It can be, especially when the energy feels so intense, but trying to control or stop it can actually create more turmoil.
Like trying to hold back a tidal wave?
Exactly.
You're better off learning to ride the waves?
Right.
So how do you actually surrender to this powerful energy?
It starts with recognizing that Kundalini has its own intelligence and purpose. It's not something to be feared or suppressed, but rather understood and worked with.
Right, so it's not about passive resignation.
No, not at all.
But rather active acceptance and cooperation with the process.
Exactly. And that leads us to the next tip, working with the energy.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that.
It's about becoming aware of the sensations, noticing where you feel the energy in your body and what it might be trying to show you.
It's like having a conversation with your own energy.
Precisely.
Instead of fearing it, you're trying to understand its language.
Kundalini is a highly communicative force, and by tuning into its subtle messages, we can gain valuable insights into our own blocks and areas for growth.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about weathering the storm,
No.
but actually learning from it and using it as a catalyst for transformation.
Exactly. And speaking of weathering the storm, it's essential to be gentle with your body during this process.
Of course, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We're talking about a pretty major energetic upgrade here. So what does being gentle with yourself actually look like?
Well, Dr. Lopes recommends giving yourself extra rest, nourishing your body with healthy foods, and avoiding pushing yourself too hard physically.
Yeah, I definitely crave more downtime and nourishing foods when I'm going through periods of intense growth or change.
Yeah.
It's like my body is signaling that it needs extra support.
It's about honoring those needs and creating a space for healing and integration to occur.
Okay, so we've got surrender, working with the energy, and being gentle with your body. What other practical tips does Dr. Lopes offer?
Movement is another important one.
What kind of movement?
Gentle movement, like dancing, stretching, or walking, can be incredibly helpful for circulating the energy and preventing it from getting stuck.
So it's not about intense workouts,
No, not at all.
but more about moving the energy in a fluid, expressive way.
Exactly. Dr. Lopes actually shared that during her own Kundalini awakening, dancing quite literally saved her life. It helped her move the energy through her body and release the intense heat she was experiencing.
Wow, that's incredible.
And even if you're not a dancer, any form of gentle movement that feels good to you can be beneficial. It's all about listening to your body and finding what works best for you.
Another tip that resonates with me is connecting with nature.
Oh, yeah.
There's something so grounding and rejuvenating about spending time outdoors. Dr. Lopes found that being in nature, whether it was swimming in the ocean, lying on the grass, or hugging a tree, helped calm her symptoms and balance her energy.
Makes sense.
I could definitely relate to that. For me, even a short walk in the park can do wonders for my mood and energy levels.
It's like plugging into the Earth's natural energy grid and getting a much-needed recharge.
Exactly.
Nature has an innate ability to harmonize and heal.
A powerful ally during these transformative times. So we've covered movement and connecting with nature. What else?
One last but essential tip: hydration. Dr. Lopes emphasizes the importance of drinking lots of water, especially during a Kundalini awakening.
Makes sense. Water is essential for flushing out toxins and facilitating energy flow.
Right. And here's a pro tip from Dr. Lopes. Consider adding electrolytes to your water, especially during an intense Kundalini awakening.
That's a great reminder. Especially if you're experiencing a lot of sweating or physical purging, replenishing electrolytes can make a big difference.
You can.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored the differences between spiritual and Kundalini awakenings and got some practical tips for navigating these powerful experiences.
Definitely.
But there's one thing I'm still curious about.
What's that?
Dr. Lopes mentions that these awakenings can unlock abilities we didn't even know we had. I'm really intrigued by that idea of untapped potential.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
What kind of abilities are we talking about here? Is this where the superpower analogy comes in?
It's definitely where things get really interesting. It is.
Okay, so spill the beans. What kind of superpowers are we talking about here? Can I suddenly teleport or read minds?
Well, maybe not quite that dramatic, but the potential is vast.
Okay.
Dr. Lopes talks about how these awakenings can enhance intuition, creativity, and even physical abilities.
So less about leaping tall buildings in a single bound and more about accessing deeper levels of awareness and insight.
Right, exactly.
Which, when you think about it, are pretty powerful in their own right.
They are.
Imagine being able to tap into your intuition with such clarity that you make decisions with unwavering confidence, or having a creative flow so strong that new ideas pour out effortlessly.
That's amazing.
Okay, now that's the kind of superpower I'm interested in. But how do we actually cultivate these abilities? Is it just a matter of waiting for the awakening to happen? Or can we actively do something to prepare ourselves or enhance these abilities?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think it gets to the heart of Dr. Lopes' message.
Okay.
While the awakening itself might be a spontaneous event, we can create a more fertile ground for those abilities to blossom.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It's like tending a garden. You can't force a seed to sprout, but you can provide the right conditions for it to thrive.
Exactly.
So what are some of those gardening tips for cultivating our inner superpowers?
Well, a lot of the practices we've already discussed,
Like what?
things like meditation, spending time in nature, and moving our bodies can help create a more harmonious internal environment for these abilities to emerge. It's about cultivating a state of presence, openness, and receptivity.
So it's not necessarily about doing anything extraordinary, but rather about bringing more awareness and intention to the things we're already doing.
Exactly.
It's about approaching life with a sense of curiosity and wonder, being open to new experiences, and paying attention to those subtle nudges from our intuition.
Yes.
It's like we're all walking around with these incredible superpowers dormant within us,
Yeah.
just waiting to be activated.
I love that.
It's such an empowering message.
It is.
Okay, so let's say someone is listening to this right now and thinking, okay, I'm ready to activate my superpowers. What would you say to them? Where should they start?
I'd encourage them to explore some of the practices we've discussed.
Like what?
Try meditating, get out into nature, move their body in ways that feel good, and start paying attention to their intuition.
Yeah.
Even small steps in these directions can make a big difference.
And remember, these awakenings, whether spiritual or Kundalini, aren't a one-time event.
Right.
An ongoing journey of growth and evolution.
Precisely. And just as our technology continues to evolve at an exponential pace, so too can our consciousness and our potential.
It makes you wonder what incredible things we'll be capable of as we continue to tap into these latent abilities.
It's exciting to think about, isn't it?
It is.
And, if we connect this back to what's happening in the world right now, it seems like we could really use a collective awakening of these higher abilities.
Oh, absolutely. We're facing some pretty massive challenges.
Yeah.
Climate change, social injustice, political polarization, and it feels like we need a whole new level of awareness and creativity to navigate these turbulent times.
Yeah, I think so too.
If more people could tap into their intuition, their compassion, their ability to see beyond the limitations of their current perspective, imagine the positive impact it could have on the world.
Imagine.
It's a beautiful vision.
It is.
And it all starts with each of us doing the inner work to awaken those qualities within ourselves.
Exactly. And the tools and insights we've explored today can help make that journey a little bit smoother and more meaningful.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into spiritual and Kundalini awakenings, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listener will walk away with?
I'd say the most important thing to remember is that you have incredible potential within you. just waiting to be unlocked. These awakenings are simply a catalyst for that process, a way of tapping into abilities you might not even know you possess.
And whether you're seeking a profound spiritual awakening or simply wanting to enhance your creativity and intuition, the practices we've discussed today, meditation, nature connection, movement, and self-care, can help you cultivate a more fertile ground for those abilities to flourish.
Absolutely.
And don't underestimate the power of your own intention. If you set the intention to awaken to your full potential and you commit to the journey, incredible things can happen.
They can.
It's a reminder that we're not just passive recipients of fate, but active participants in our own evolution.
Exactly. We have the power to shape our own destiny, to create a more conscious and fulfilling life for ourselves and for the world around us.
So, to our listener out there, what incredible things are you ready to awaken to? What superpowers are you ready to unleash? That's a powerful question, isn't it? One worth pondering.
It is, yeah.
It's funny, we often think of superpowers as these larger-than-life abilities.
Right.
But what if the true superpower is simply that willingness to awaken, to keep expanding our awareness and potential?
I think you're right.
When we tap into those deeper levels of consciousness, it's like we open ourselves up to a whole new realm of possibility, don't we?
We do.
We start to see things differently, connect with ourselves and the world in more meaningful ways.
Yeah.
And access a wellspring of creativity and intuition that we might not have even known existed.
It's like upgrading our operating system, wouldn't you say? Both individually and collectively?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as more and more people make that upgrade, well, it creates a ripple effect.
Definitely.
It's like we're all contributing to a collective awakening, a shift towards a more conscious and interconnected way of being.
Such a beautiful vision.
And that shift has the potential to transform everything, our relationships, our communities, our planet.
Yeah, I agree.
It's pretty inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it all starts with each of us taking those first steps, those small but significant actions to cultivate our own awakening.
Absolutely.
Whether it's committing to a daily meditation practice, spending more time in nature, or simply paying attention to those subtle whispers of intuition.
Every step we take in that direction is a step towards a more awakened and empowered future.
And remember, this journey isn't a solo mission, is it?
Not at all.
There's a whole community of seekers and explorers out there, all on their own unique paths of awakening.
And when we connect with one another, share our experiences, and support each other along the way, the journey becomes even more meaningful.
So if you're feeling inspired by what we've explored today, don't hesitate to reach out, connect with others, and keep exploring these fascinating topics.
There's a wealth of information and resources available.
And there's never been a better time to dive in.
So,
as always, we'd love to hear about your own experiences and insights, so feel free to share your thoughts in the comments or reach out to us directly.
We're all on this journey together, and we can't wait to see what we can create as a collective.
Keep shining bright.